The Zimmer enPuls in its box is 57.5 centimetres wide or 22.5 inches. It's 39.5 centimetres tall or 15.5 inches, and it's 17.5 centimetres deep or 7 inches. It makes it one of the smallest portable radial shockwave machines we've ever seen. Compared to a carry-on bag, as you can see, it's about twice the width of a carry-on bag, not quite as tall, and about the same depth. Compared to a normal rucksack, it's about the same height as a normal rucksack, about twice the width, and just slightly less depth. Compared to a captain's bag, it's just slightly wider, it's not as deep, and it's just slightly taller. The Zimmer weighs 11.7 kilos, or the equivalent of 25.8 pounds, which is very light. It fits easily into the boot of a small SUV or 4x4, leaving plenty of space for other equipment. Overall, the smallest and lightest machine we've seen. Here we are with the enPuls from Zimmer, a radial portable shockwave machine, electromagnetic. It's currently in its carry case, which is probably actually where you'll use it from. Zimmer do make a trolley for this machine, but I think most people will probably use it straight out of the case. It's a very sturdy, robust case, made from aluminium. On the front there's a carry handle, which is a good carry handle, and there are two locks to close the case and unlock the case. We'll unlock them. A little open arrow so you see which way it opens. When you open the case, you can see the machine. Behind the machine is the head. On the left hand side there's a head holder and various shockwave heads. There's two 15mm heads with this machine, a 6mm head and a 30mm head. There are 10 head covers, which are the blue silicone covers, a bottle of lotion, which is actually paraffin oil. Underneath that is the foot switch for activating the machine. There's a power lead in there somewhere and various instruction books. We'll start at the beginning and we'll take out the shockwave machine itself. This is the enPuls. Behind that is the shockwave gun. It's actually in a protective cover, it's not yellow, it's just the covers there to protect the aluminium body. And then we have the power lead. This is a UK power lead, although this machine did come with a European power lead as well. Various different pieces of conformity documentation. On the left hand side at the front here is a gun holder. That's for standing your gun in. Behind that, in the little pouch, there should be some keys and some plastic pens for using the touchscreen software. Two keys to lock the case. Behind that you've got 10 rubber covers in blue. These are for applying the shockwave head to your patient, softens the shock. And a bottle of oil, contact oil. 3 shockwave heads. There's actually a 15mm head here, a 6mm head, that's the acupuncture head, and a 30mm head. If you have a look there, you'll see there's actually a head gauge, and we'll just quickly show you how to use the head gauge. If I just change the angle of the camera here slightly. I'm going to zoom in and see if we can actually get this on film. It's quite difficult to see. In essence, what you do is you take the gauge and you offer it up to the back, the shockwave head, and there should be a gap between the end of the gauge and the head, about 1mm to 2mm. It's really, really difficult to see, but in essence there should be a gap there. Try and zoom in as much as we possibly can. See if we can get it to focus on that. No, the camera just doesn't want to focus on that little gap. It really is a small gap. In essence, once there's no gap there anymore, that shockwave head has to be replaced. Underneath the shockwave head holder, is the foot switch. And that's used to activate the shockwave. At the top of the case is a pouch, and if we lower down the pouch, you'll see there are the various instruction manuals for the machine, including all the settings for all the different clinical protocols, in case you get stuck and can't find them in the software. This is the enPuls out of the box. We've removed the case now, and if we turn the enPuls around, you'll see there are various ports on the back of the machine. These ports are used for attaching the various different heads, foot switches and power leads. If we start with the power lead goes into the black socket. Can only go in one way around, and then there's a power switch for on and off. It's in its on position. You'll probably leave it in that, I would have thought. If we carry on now to the gun is the next one on from the power lead. The gun attaches in. If you have a look on the lead to the gun, there's actually a red dot. There's a red dot. And if you plug it in, the red dot goes uppermost towards the arrow. The next one along is the foot switch. The foot switch also has a red dot on its lead, and the red dot goes uppermost. The foot switch and the gun cannot be mixed up. They have different pinnings, so they physically won't fit in each other's slots. And on the right hand side of that is a fan, just for keeping the unit cool. So the Zimmer enPuls with all its attachments plugged in now. First of all, we've got the foot switch. I'll bring that in front of the machine. That you would use to, obviously you would put it on the floor and press it with your foot. It's a 360-degree switch, so you can press on it from any direction to start the shockwave. You can actually use it with your hand. I've been using it with my hand and pressing it with my hand. There's no problem with that. We also have the gun. The gun's still in its protective coating, and in fact we get a gun holder. If we bring that in, and we can stand the gun. It stands head down into the holder. That's lovely. And that's in case you're using it on a trolley or something like that. It goes that way in so that the fan can actually ventilate the top of the gun. The fan runs for quite a while, often after you've used a Zimmer machine. And that's to cool down the head, to cool down the magnets. So that's the head holder. The Zimmer comes with 10 blue head covers. These are to soften the shock and to prevent heat from going through from the machine onto the patient. You simply put them on, slide into position, and then to pull them off, you simply pull them back on. If we put this one back on, we'll show you one of the things about electromagnetic devices with rubber covers. If we can just zoom in a little bit to the end of the head. You may well be able to see that the end of the head has actually gone slightly concave. It does this when you put the covers on, and that can actually make the head slightly concave, which is probably why the manufacturer are providing these machines with a set of oil rather than a set of gel. You'd probably find with concaved rubber covers, the gel would cavitate a lot more than it would on, say, a plain metal end. The manufacturers do say you don't actually have to use these covers. It depends what you're using as your contact medium. And I've been told that with gel, you can use the machine without the rubber cover. I've tried this, but it does tend to get quite hot, so it isn't something I'd necessarily recommend. The Zimmer enPuls software. The Zimmer enPuls software is fairly intuitive and easy to use. If we start by pressing the start button on the bottom corner here, you'll see we come into the main software screen. You've got various different adjustments. So we're going to start with adjusting the power level. The power level is shown on our left hand side and is adjusted by simply turning the handle. You can see there, that takes it up, and it can go from 60 up to 185 millijoules. If we come into the centre, you'll see that's the shock counter. If we press the centre, we can increase the shocks in batches of 1,000 or batches of 100 to the desired amount. We press OK to enter it into the software. On the top right is the continuous button. The continuous button chooses whether you have continuous shocks or bursts of 4, 8 or 12 shocks. We'll leave it as continuous. And then underneath that is the frequency. And the frequency determines what speed the gun will run at. In this case, anywhere from 22 Hz down to 1. The energy and the frequency are interrelated. So you can't have every frequency at any energy level. And there's a full chart on the website explaining this, but in essence, you can have 22 Hz between 60 and 90 millijoules. So at 60 you can go up to 22 Hz, but you can now only turn the machine up to 90 millijoules. It won't turn up beyond 90 millijoules. If you want to go beyond 90 millijoules, you'll have to go down to 16 Hz or less, where you'll be able to select anywhere from 60 up to 120 millijoules. So 60 to 90, 22 Hz, 100 to 120, 16 Hz. If you want to go above 120 millijoules, you'll have to go down to 10 Hz or below, and now you'll be able to go from 120 right up to 185 millijoules. This is fairly common on electromagnetic devices. Okay, say we've put a program in. This is quite an unusual program, but let's say we wanted to save this. There's a little save button, and if we press that and then give this a random name, we can save this to either the favourites or the memory of the machine, depending on which we prefer. We'll press favourites for now. They're just different ways of accessing them once you've got them in there. And then we'll press the tick button to say we know we've got it on the machine. That's now saved into our favourites. And if we come to the top right hand corner of the machine, we can press favourites. And you'll see that our program is at the top. If we press it, it'll come up onto the screen. But the energy level is not brought forwards. This is the same on any of the programs or any of the therapies or any of the memories on this machine. It does seem a bit of a flaw that it doesn't bring it forwards. It's probably a safety thing so that they can say you actually chose the energy level yourself. So we'd have to enter the energy level ourselves back manually. Okay, we'll move on the right hand side. If you look below favourites, there's a button that says programs. These are preset programs. And if you have a look, there's a whole list of them. If you press any of them, it brings them forwards into the software. And you'll see again the energy level hasn't come forwards. Below that is a button that says therapy. This is probably where you'll spend some of your time. That was memory, not therapy. That's therapy. You can always tell because it brings up a picture of a person. And you'll see various areas circled on the body. If you press one of the circles, it will bring up common problems in that area. So in this case, post-muscular injury. If we press that button, you'll see it says acute or chronic. We'll press acute, and it brings forwards here the explanation of what you're going to be doing. The frequency, the power level, the shocks, number of treatments, frequency of treatments, and the recommended applicator head. If you press the down arrow, there may be more information below this. You can see there's an indication and notes. And if you look on the left-hand side, there's like a page 1 of 2. If we press the up arrow, we get a different picture. This is the back of the leg instead of the front of the leg. If we press the therapy button now, by pressing the tick, that will bring us through into the program. So we've accidentally pressed the therapy button in the centre. We'll go back through. Yep, acute. Lovely. And then therapy, that's it. And it brings us through. But again, it hasn't brought the energy level through. If you go into therapy on the right-hand side and then press list, it actually lists the different treatments. Or if you press body parts, it brings you back to the picture of the body parts. The list is probably an easier way of accessing them in all truthfulness. If we press the memory button, this brings us back to any programs we've saved in the memory. This is very similar to favourites, except they've called it memory. And if we press the home button, it brings us back to the main screen. If we press the settings button on the main screen, you'll see we've got various different options. There's a language option, a start settings option. At the moment we're in therapy, that brings you straight forward into doing the therapy. The start screen, which is the start picture, is at motivation at the moment, and you can change the welcome text. You can use we'll try that one more time. An alternative language if you like, which is the top box on the right hand side. You can adjust the graphics and the audio by changing the brightness up and down and the volume up and down. And once you've done everything, you can press OK. If you press the version button, it brings up the version of your software. This is the enPuls version 2, build 38. And we'll just press a tick there. If we press the standard button, we're not going to press it, because if we do, we've done this before, it changes the language of the machine back to German and we start all over again. So we had to make all the settings again. So I'd recommend you don't press the standard button unless you're in Germany. Touch calibration, we're not going to press it. We have actually done it, and it does take a while to calibrate the touchscreen, quite a while to calibrate the touchscreen sometimes. So we're not going to press that, but that's in case your touchscreen appears to be off. And if you press the maintenance button, the machine will tell you that there's a handpiece plugged in, there's a foot switch plugged in, and we can test the handpiece if we want to. We're not going to, we're just going to press OK. And then we're just going to come back to the start screen, because now we're going to take you through the decibel readings of the machine. The Zimmer is activated by pressing the foot switch, which has to remain pressed to keep the shockwave running. When the foot switch is released, the shockwave switches off. We're here with the Zimmer enPuls doing decibel readings. We've got a decibel meter set up, and we're going to start, as you can see, 60 millijoules at 10 Hertz. The noise you're hearing is 82 decibels. You will have to speak above it to speak to your patients. Okay. We can get the machine to go up significantly more than 82 decibels. We can get it to go up to 83 decibels, which is actually nearly double the volume, by just changing the hertz up to 22 hertz. And we'll go again. That's 83 decibels. That's louder. You will have to shout louder to be heard above it. That's about as loud as the machine gets, actually. If we go up to 90 millijoules at 22 decibels, the sound is the same. Still 83 decibels. And in fact, if we take the machine right up to its highest power setting, which we'll have to do at 10 Hertz, 185 millijoules at 10 Hertz, there's 83 decibels. You'll find most of the time the machine actually runs at 83 decibels. It's only on its lowest settings it runs at 82 decibels. Of interest, we thought we'd show you how we pack this machine away, not how the manufacturer shows you how to pack this machine away. I'm not entirely sure Zimmer meant for it to be used this way, but we'll show you how we do it, because when you do it this way, it's really easy and quick to use the machine. So we start by unplugging the machine, obviously, and we do that from the mains. We don't actually switch it off at the back of the machine, and we just hide the plug down behind the back of the machine. There's plenty of room for it, where the head would normally go. We then take the head and we put the head in its holder by moving away all the other bits and pieces, and you'll see the head fits in the holder there. And then we bring the foot switch up. It's on the floor, so we're going to have to bring it off the floor, and we put it in the front slot. Zimmer actually have this slot set aside for the head holder. Doesn't seem to really suit the head holder. It's a much better size for the foot switch, and so we put the foot switch in there. We then wrap up the leads into the machine, and as there's plenty of padding and a gap between the machine and the top of the case, with a little bit of jiggery pokery, without trapping any of the wires, you can actually shut the case, and yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit of doing. There we go. We haven't got the other clasp, but it's near enough. You can shut the case and carry the machine, and when you reopen the case, we're only going to have to open one clasp, but there you go. You can actually just take out the wires, take out the foot plate, put it down, take out the head, and plugged back in, the machine is actually ready to use. So you're literally seeing how we use the machine in real time. So we undo the case, and it's ready to use. Like I say, this is probably not what Zimmer intended when they designed the case and the machine, but this is how we've been using it. So far, we don't seem to have damaged any of the wires. Overall, the Zimmer enPuls is a fantastic portable radio shockwave machine. It's the smallest and lightest machine we've ever seen. It really is light and very portable. It's very easy to travel with. The machine is the same machine as other manufacturers produce, just in a slightly different case with slightly different metals for the head and a slightly different set of plastics for the main body. Of the other ones that are produced, the Zimmer is still the lightest and it's still the easiest to transport, although I've got to say its case isn't the easiest case to latch shut, if I'm honest. It's a fantastic radio shockwave machine. Its head is slightly heavier than other manufacturers produce, and that makes the shockwave very direct. It feels like one of the strongest shockwaves we've ever used. Even on its lowest setting, it really is a strong shockwave. The machine's excellently put together. I don't think you'll ever have any problems with any of the handles or any of the connectors or the connector onto the gun. It all feels extremely solid. The gun is returned to base to be rebuilt, although I'm sure they'd give you a replacement. Overall, this is a brilliant machine. We'd recommend it to anyone who's in the market for a radio shockwave machine that's portable.